Thank you for listening to mypainweb. Despite all that modern medicine offers, chronic pain often worsens and becomes more complicated over time. Connecting to mypainweb empowers you to take charge of your chronic pain. We'll help you achieve some quality of life as you face your own obstacles of living with chronic pain. You are listening to My PainWeb podcast, episode 17, Chronic Pain and Disability. Today we're talking about what if chronic pain makes you unable to work, preventing you from collecting a paycheck. So let's get started. Hey everybody, Steve Connick here. Welcome to My PainWeb podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The My PainWeb podcast is the place where we talk about what it means to be suffering in a pain web. We listen, we share, we connect, we clarify, we cry, and we laugh. Together, we empower and motivate to create confidence, worth, and self-esteem. My PainWeb helps you achieve a quality of life as you face the obstacles of living with chronic pain. You can connect to many chronic pain details and information at mypainweb.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at mypainweb and Facebook. Today's show discusses what to do if your chronic pain makes you unable to work, preventing you from collecting a paycheck. You know, one of the most complicated and devastating strands within the pain web is disability. Disability from chronic pain ensnares the very essence of quality of life. You see, coping with the pain and suffering physically and psychologically soon becomes further entangled with the individual's pain web as they are unable to work, unable to collect a paycheck, unable to provide income for themselves and their family. The sudden loss of income continues to weave within the pain web into the realization that the career, along with the hopes of future work-related growth and advancement, are gone. The devastation that disability causes within the pain web continues as the individual is faced with piling financial debt. The increased necessary medical interventions, many times required from specialty and maybe subspecialty healthcare professionals, are not always covered by health insurance. It's also common that many chronic pain prescription meds are brand name only, costing significantly more than generic medication. So the financial debt continues to inflate exponentially as the chronic pain patient becomes financially responsible for greater percentages of necessary expenses for complicated diagnostic testing, medical procedures, and even hospital stays. In fact, despite the fact that the chronic pain patient is financially responsible for more of the necessary medical care because their health insurance plan covers less, they soon discover that to keep the health insurance they have means that they will have to pay for it out of their own pocket. Eventually, losing gainful employment means you eventually lose health insurance benefits as you no longer are considered employed. Of course, you are given the option of keeping your health insurance coverage as long as you pay for it. The pain web causes even more tragedy by the fact that it ensnares family members just the same. Financial hardship hits the entire family. The sadness continues as the loved ones feel helpless, as the most they can do is watch the effects chronic pain is having on their loved one and the entire family. How a loved one interacts with someone living with chronic pain becomes complicated and many times a source of added stress. What to say and do, how to say it and do it, when to say it and do it. You see, the pain web changes verbal and nonverbal communication as chronic pain changes people. Loved ones want to help. They hope and pray for ways to take away or reduce the chronic pain. They feel the need to take action and to take care of the situation as a show of their love and heartfelt concern. Another reaction from some involves a sense of fear that can arise as a loved one and or a friend witnesses the tragic consequences of chronic pain. They feel that maybe the best way to respond to the chronic pain sufferer is to just step back and distance themselves from the person. I know I said a lot, and for those of us that suffer with chronic pain, what I've said so far may sound all too familiar, which is why we're going to spend a little bit of extra time on this particular podcast, because out of all of our pain strands within the pain web, disability reaches far and is interconnected to so much of our chronic pain and the loved ones around us. I came across a link some time ago called Understand Someone with Chronic Pain. It's well worth the read. So take a few minutes, and after this podcast, go to mypainweb.com, and in the PainWeb help section, click on the disability button, and you'll see the link for Understand Someone with Chronic Pain. And also, take a look at, under the quotes and inspiration segment at mypainweb.com, a particular button called A Loved One's Survival Guide for Chronic Pain. This was written by my wife, Laura, as she struggled along with me in trying to manage chronic pain. So you see, one of the most cruel causes of the disability strand in the pain web is the absolute hopelessness which weaves through the chronic pain patient as they feel utterly useless, not only to themselves, but especially how they see themselves within their family and in the world. So, disability. What to do first? See, the disability strand is no different than any other strand within the pain web. You must take charge of your disability. And what I mean is understanding disability and learning about what disability means and how to identify options is the first step. Taking action that we're going to talk about now for the next few minutes will give you some confidence and momentum to help you take control of your pain web and improve your quality of life. So let's start with this. What is the definition of disability? I wanted to know. So the first place I looked some years ago was just the dictionary's definition of disability. And it says that disability is the lack of adequate power, strength, or physical or mental ability. It's incapacity, a physical or mental handicap, especially one that prevents a person from living a full, normal life or from holding a gainful job. Anything that disables or puts one at a disadvantage. The state or condition of being disabled. And finally, the legal incapacity or the legal disqualification. Now, those 5 points, again, are straight out of the dictionary for the definition of disability. And like with all other mypainweb podcasts, don't feel like you need to be taking a lot of notes here, because the discussion that we're having can be found in detail at mypainweb.com. Under the mypainweb help section, you'll see the icon for disability, and you can find all of the detail that we're discussing about there. Now, while the dictionary's definition of disability is quite clear and concise, disability as it relates to the legal status of inability to work is as complicated as chronic pain and the pain web itself. So, let's pause here for a second. The dictionary is very clear about what disability means. However, in the realm of the definition of disability, in the sense of what it means from a work standpoint, that definition is not clear. In fact, it's quite confusing and it's quite complicated. If you cannot work because of your chronic pain, then pursue disability. It's your right. At the same time, understand that the process of determining if someone is unable to work due to chronic pain, it's going to be a long, arduous, and imperfect task. The obvious reason is to ensure that only rightful individuals who have proven incapable of working due to chronic pain are categorized as disabled. So proving you are disabled is the task, regardless of what you think, and to some extent what your own doctor says. Proving disability is a complicated process. Now, we've all heard the stories, and we're not going to spend time here on those that abuse and those that take advantage of the system. What we're talking about here is the legitimate disability path. So let's take a few minutes and talk about that particular path. The obvious reason that we're going to start here is disability is a process, and typically it starts further out than just applying for disability. And here's what I mean. During your employment, perhaps when your injury or illness first started, you may have qualified for, or if you're at that point now, you should determine if your employer offers short-term disability as a benefit. Check with your employer to see if short-term disability is provided. Many employers offer it as a benefit. You see, short-term disability eligibility usually becomes effective after a number of consecutive days of work missed due to being disabled. Contact your employer about filing the application, which is also called a claim, while asking about other requirements of the short-term disability benefit. There is also a period of disability which defines the maximum number of weeks benefits are paid, along with an explanation of how the percentage of your pay is calculated, which is also referred to as the benefit and when it's paid. Now understand, you must provide any medical information that your employer requires, which may include documentation from your doctor or doctors, along with a requirement that you take something called an independent medical examination, an IME. The IME may be used to determine if you are disabled. Now, what's important here is having your information organized and current. Hint, hint, refer to mypainweb forms at mypainweb.com about having all of the right information easily organized and updated. You can also listen to My Pain Web Forms as one of our podcasts, one of our earlier podcasts, which was number 3. You can re-listen to that one as well. Now, assuming your employer offers short-term disability, most of them do. Short-term disability is meant to be just that, short-term. What happens next? Your chronic pain continues, your disability continues. What happens next is something called long-term disability. Long-term disability, again, is very similar to short-term disability. It's actually a continuation of the short-term disability benefit plan. Again, check with your employer to see if long-term disability is provided. And once again, an application, which is also called a claim, from your employer will need to be completed for long-term disability by you, along with a section to be completed by your doctor, who's called the physician's statement. Now, under long-term disability plans, you will be asked to furnish proof of your disability. The insurance company providing the benefit has the right to investigate your claim at any time. They also have the right to have you go to an independent medical examination. Here we go, the IME. You can be sent to have as many IMEs as the insurance carrier requires you to do. And it's done by a specialist at their choosing, which they pay for. Now keep in mind that if at any time you refuse to cooperate, or you refuse to go to an IME, then the insurance company, either long-term disability or short-term disability, has the right to either deny your claim and or stop payments. Again, as with short-term disability, having current updated details explaining your medical situation is crucial. My Pain Web forms at mypainweb.com can help you prepare. So as we continue down the road, starting with short-term disability, which over time, if your chronic pain continues, moves into long-term disability, there's another type of insurance called workers' compensation. Now, this is for in the event that your disability was the result of an injury suffered while on the job, then you may be eligible for workers' compensation. So workers' compensation is similar to short-term and long-term disability, in which there is a disability carrier involved. So if you're hurt on the job, you will most likely fall under workers' compensation insurance. If you're not hurt on the job, you then most likely will follow the short-term disability into long-term disability program. Now, just like the other two forms of disability, workers' comp also requires an application called a claim for workers' compensation, and it's filed through your employer. You'll be required to furnish all medical information pertaining to the disability. In addition to, you'll be required to go to, yes, you are ready for it, the independent medical examination as directed by the Workers' Compensation Board. Once again, failure to cooperate with these kinds of requests, the Workers' Compensation Board may result in a denial of your claim and or stopping benefits. Now, upon approval of your claim, the Workers' Compensation Board will award a payment to you as a percentage of your normal weekly earnings. This award will be mailed to you according to a payment schedule that's determined by the Workers' Comp Board. Now, the Workers' Comp Board will instruct that all your medical care related to your claim be approved by them first. This means that diagnostic tests, medical treatments, surgeries, prescription medications, and many other medical necessities are first submitted to Workman's Comp for approval, and they have the right to deny any requests for medical treatment as they determined to be either necessary or unnecessary. So the Workers' Compensation Board also comes with a convenient appeals process, which includes the request for a hearing. Now, this appeal hearing process gives us, the chronic pain sufferer, the opportunity to get a denial. Maybe it's a certain test that your doctor is saying is needed or a certain procedure. If workers' comp denies it, even though your doctor says it's required, you'll have to go through the appeals process, and hopefully it will be overturned once they review it. Now, workers' compensation can get extremely complicated, so it may be necessary for you to seek the services of a workers' compensation attorney. Why? Well, it's to ensure that you receive all workers' compensation benefits that you are entitled to. Workers' compensation attorneys can also provide you the necessary leverage to ensure timely medical approvals, timely paid benefits, and to fight unjust denials for medical treatment requests. Now, you may be entitled to reimbursement of other out-of-pocket expenses directly related to your claim, like vehicle mileage to and from your medical appointments, along with any parking fees. But keep in mind, only those medical appointments directly related to your claim are allowed. Again, mypainweb forms at mypainweb.com has the proper, easy-to-use documents to just fill in the particulars of your medical situation so you have updated, accurate information to provide at all times. Now we're getting to the path that leads to Social Security Disability, otherwise known as SSD. So as you can see, there's several other insurance steps that carries along the process of being disabled and unable to work, starting with short-term disability insurance, long-term disability insurance, workers' compensation if you're hurt on the job, and then you reach Social Security Disability. Now, disability under Social Security is based on your inability to work. This is information years back I searched and searched for, but found it difficult to find out exactly what this process is. What is the bottom line on Social Security Disability? What we've discussed up till now would have been extremely helpful to see, for me to see, that there is a path that I can be following, and you can now see it as well. So Social Security, you're going to be considered disabled if you are unable to do any kind of work for which you are suited, and your disability is expected to last or has lasted for at least a year, or it's expected to result in death. Now, at this point, if you feel you are at the Social Security Disability step, there's a really good resource that you can find at mypainweb.com. In the PainWeb Help section, click on Disability, and it's the Social Security Definition of Disability link. Take a few minutes to read that because it's kind of like an informative, non-legal translation of disability. Now, another link you'll see right down below is the Social Security government definition of disability. This is the official Social Security Administration website. I suggest you taking a few minutes and looking at that particular site. How does someone actually apply for Social Security disability? Again, referred to as SSD. Well, the process starts by filling out the SSD, Social Security Disability Application. Now, you can obtain on the official website, it's the ssa.gov, Social Security Administration.gov website, or you can go in person to your local Social Security Administration office and you can get the application. Now, assuming you're at that step, you've got the application and you're ready to move forward, what do? I recommend, because this is what I did, I recommend that you fill out the Social Security Disability application yourself. Why? Because the application is straightforward and it is relatively simple if you've been using and keeping current all of the mypainweb forms. Now, here are some of the Social Security Disability application sections that you will have to complete. Obviously, there's the basic information about you section, information about your injuries or conditions and how they affect you, information about your work. You'll have to give them information about your medical records, like your doctors and your treatments, information about what medications you've been taking, information about medical tests, information about your education and training, and any information that you have if you had any type of vocational rehabilitation. There's also a remark section where you can add any additional information. Now, it is imperative that all the information that you provide is truthful and accurate. Now, Social Security Disability will advise you of an appointment for an interview, which may be done by telephone or in person at your local Social Security Administration office. You'll also be instructed whether to bring your completed application with you or mail it ahead of time. So, once you have the application and you fill it out, you call and they will advise you of setting up an interview, either by phone or in person. And at that time, they will advise you to go ahead and mail in your application or to just bring it in with you. Now, for me, and I think you will see this as well, that completing this Social Security Disability application is just another way for us to take charge of our PainWeb. Now, there is another option for completing the Social Security Disability application in the event that you're unable, or if you just choose not to complete the application, is to hire an attorney specializing in Social Security Disability. Now, either path you take, whether you do it yourself or you hire a Social Security Disability attorney, once your application has been submitted and the first interview is conducted, it is likely, in fact, I almost guarantee it, that you will be notified as to when and you can insert the answer, when your independent medical evaluation will be. This process does take time. Now, you will be assigned a Social Security Disability associate who will be available to answer any questions you may have or provide further clarification about this whole process. Now, it's possible your Social Security Disability approval process may involve several interviews, either by phone and or in person with Social Security Disability, along with additional independent medical evaluations. So, Up till now, you've heard this IME quite a bit, and you can see in every step of the process does involve being examined by an independent medical doctor. Now, upon completion of their review, Social Security Disability will notify you of their decision. If approved, Social Security will advise you of the particulars of the award. Be sure to ask about any retroactive time you may be eligible for. Now, in the event Social Security denies your claim, don't be discouraged. Why? Most claims are denied the first time through. While frustrating, try to look objectively at the application you submitted to be sure you answered all sections fully and that you didn't inadvertently omit any requested information. Upon resubmitting your Social Security Disability application, be sure you updated any current medical information to reflect continual medical care. It's likely you had further medical treatments, doctor's appointments, more medication since the date you submitted your initial Social Security Disability application. Now, even if you are approved, disability insurers, whether it's short-term disability, long-term disability, workers' comp, or Social Security disability, state certain conditions that you must continue to meet even after disability benefits are approved. And failure to meet these conditions may deny the approved claim and stop the benefits. What are some of these conditions? Well, the conditions are that you are not able to perform for wage or profit the material and substantial duties of your occupation or any job for wage or profit. That you are under the regular care of a doctor. That you fail to respond to periodic requests for current physician statements, which are to be completed by your doctor, and what they call a claimant statement, which is to be completed by you. Okay, what does all this mean? They've got rules. For example, if you are no longer under a doctor's care for your disability, for your chronic pain, they have the right to deny any award and payments. Also, there are periodic updates that the insurance carriers, regardless of which ones, and we've talked about a number of them, but they all have the same requirement that they will from time to time send you a physician statement in which they want an update from your doctor. If you choose not to provide that information, along with a statement that they are requesting from you, they also then, in that particular case, have the right to stop, deny any award or payment. So you can see, while you may be approved, even with Social Security Disability, these are conditions that have to continually be met. Now, when your disability insurer requests that you send information, which is most of the time, if not all, through the mail, be sure that you retain copies of each document being sent. Meaning, if your doctor, when they fill out their physician statement, get a copy of it. When you fill out your claimant statement, make a copy of it before it's sent into the insurance carrier. And particular attention needs to be made to adhering to the due dates. When they say they need it by, make sure they have it by that date. And I recommend mailing these documents yourself by certified return receipt requested mail to avoid any of the, well, we never got it. You're going to say, I mailed it, and they're going to say, as the insurance carrier, I'm sorry, we never got it. That creates an incredible incredibly frustrating situation. Now, when you send it, return receipt requested, the post office will send you notification as to when the documents were received by the insurance carrier and who signed for them. This is a matter of record that is most helpful. In the event that they say they didn't receive the documents, you have proof of when they certainly did receive it, and you can tell them who signed for them. Now, I'm going to spend a minute before we start wrapping this particular podcast on disability on this interweaving, returning piece of the puzzle, which is the independent medical evaluation, the IME. Now, the IME, independent medical evaluation, is of particular importance. It's used and it's weighted heavily in determining your disability for short-term disability insurance, long-term disability insurance, workers' comp, and Social Security disability. IMEs are controversial. They are frustrating, but they are used as the basis for determining your disability claim. When a question of disability is met with the expectation of receiving disability compensation, the disability insurer has the right to have a doctor of their choice examine you. In theory, the IMEs make perfect sense. They are designed to clarify medical restrictions and limitations. Having an independent doctor examine you along with your medical records and then rendering a report to detail findings should help ensure you are receiving the best health care. Anyone would welcome another set of expert eyes reviewing their complicated medical situation. Now, the heated controversy arises out of the complaint that, in practice, that the IME is actually a risk management tool paid for by the disability insurer to deny your claim. The existence of an IME physician network comprised of IME physicians that perform hundreds of IMEs at a cost of around $1,200 to $5,000 per IME raises some serious questions. Do IME physicians have an unfavorable opinion or feeling formed before they even examine us? Critics claim that IME physicians' results favoring the insurance company creates a lucrative business of performing several hundreds of IMEs for the doctor. Now, the fairness of these IMEs are scrutinized as the IME physician already knows the expectation of the insurance company, along with receiving all of your medical information sent along with your claim prior to you ever even walking into the exam room. Some question the IME physician adds to the controversy by drawing conclusions and writing reports using their knowledge of the disability workings and the lingo to satisfy the insurance company's agenda. Okay, I know I said a second mouthful here. What does this mean? Personally, I've been through the IMEs for years, and in some ways, yes, they can be looked at as being unfair and rigged. That the IME doctors who should be independent, making decisions on fact, could actually be more swayed, more influenced in making decisions that help the end result of the insurance carrier, which is denying your claim. So it doesn't take long to witness this kind of controversy, comparing the credible opinion of your treating doctor with the opinion of the IME physician creates yet another strand within the pain web. So we find ourselves trying to work through, what do we do at this point? Well, while the IME's physician's conclusion is contrary to the medical opinion of your doctor, the language used in the IME's report may lead some to think that the person filing the claim, the chronic pain sufferer, the person seeking disability, is dishonest. So I'm going to rephrase that a little bit. You've got your treating physician who's very clear and had submitted their reports about your chronic pain, about your disability, providing evidence and facts of it. And then the IME who receives that same information and has the opportunity to question you and examine you, they come up with a conclusion that is totally opposite of what your own treating doctor has said. And that further, they're able to use language, they meaning the IME physician, they use language that frames who they call the claimant, who is actually us, the chronic pain sufferer seeking disability, as perhaps being dishonest. Now, the outcome, some would say, is favorable to the insurance company, as it would likely result in an easy claim denial. Okay, that's a lot of stuff to start rolling around on top of everything else in your pain web. I'm going to leave you with some things that you can definitely do in addition to the steps that we've talked through about the path of trying to weed through disability. What can you do about these IMEs? Because they're very important. Well, there are a few things that you can do to help prepare for your IMEs. I know it because I've done it as well. Know your medical history. If you have an attorney, make sure that they're aware that you're going to an IME. If you want to know about the IME's physician's credentials, you can use the Doctor Finder at mypainweb. Don't exaggerate or overestimate or overstate your symptoms. Don't ask your IME physician about advice about your medical situation and treatment because he's not your doctor. Only answer the questions you're asked. And if the IME physician hurts you during exam or manipulates you or physically hurts you to the point where you are in pain, by all means, call for assistance. Have somebody with you. And if you should be hurt during an exam, or if the IME physician should cause pain, that person can help recount events. So you can avoid a lot of some IME frustration by taking some of these steps. Now, this is a big area, disability. We spent a lot of time on a number of the components. I know you've got questions and comments. Send them to me at help@mypainweb.com. You can also post them on Facebook or at Twitter at mypainweb. Without question, handling your disability will give you a sense of confidence to take further control of your pain web. I really appreciate the patience that you've all shown on this particular podcast. Thanks for listening, and remember, some quality of life can exist with chronic pain. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to our future chats. Thank you, and take care.